Kenya's president addressed the nation. He says he holds a differing opinion to the Supreme Court ruling, but still respects it.
That it is important for us as Kenyans to be respecters of the rule of law. I personally disagree with the ruling that has been made today, but I respect it as much as I disagree with it. I respect it.
Well, for more on this, let's speak to Patrick Gathara. He's a cartoonist and columnist who covers Kenyan politics for the political magazine The Elephant, and he joins us now from Nairobi. First of all, Patrick, how surprised are you, not only that the election has been invalidated, but that President Kenyatta, as we heard just there, accepts the judge's ruling?
Well, thanks for having me. I think first the ruling is a shock. I don't think anybody expected that the court would annul the election, even though it was quite clear that there were some significant irregularities and, as the court described them, illegalities in the running of the election. When it comes to President Kenyatta accepting the result, I think that is not in itself too much of a surprise. The fact is that before he has had rulings go against him, and even in the run-up to this election, the court had made some significant rulings that were seen to go against the wishes of the government, and all were accepted. I think the ruling now and the acceptance also kind of cements for Kenya the rule of law. It reinforces the democratic gains that have been made, especially with the 2010 constitution, and actually reaffirms the credibility of the court as a neutral arbiter when it comes to electoral disputes, especially at the presidential level. You'll remember that in 2007, it was sort of the refusal of the opposition to go to court that ended up with the matter being litigated essentially on the streets, with over 1,000 people dying in the violence that ensued. I think one of the major things or benefits of today's ruling is that it makes electoral violence associated with the presidential poll, which has been the bane of Kenya's politics, much less likely now going forward. So it kind of entrenches for us the democratic gains that we have made.
You talk about the democratic leap forward, and yet some people might think it's strange that independent monitors said that the election hadn't been rigged, and now the court's saying that it has been.
Well, yes, I think lots of independent monitors, such as the Carter Center, which was led here, the team here was led by John Kerry, who was a presidential candidate in the US and former Secretary of State, and it leaves them with egg on their face. Because they declared, and I think in a sort of rushed to declare the election free and fair, despite the fact that numerous people were raising issues to do with how the process had been carried out. And I think for observers around the world who go to look at elections, not just in Africa, but in other places, will be well advised to sit and wait out the process as a whole before giving a verdict. Lots of the verdict was given simply on polling day, on the fact that there was peaceful voting and that at the polling stations everything was orderly. But yet in Kenya's case, in the last 4 or 5 elections, problems have always cropped up at the transmission phase. And the laws that we have were actually put in place essentially to ensure that that did not happen. And the fact that they were flouted and have now been reinforced by the court, that the court has said that process matters, is quite important. So I think for international observers, they are well advised to learn the basics and to learn about the places they're going to be observing. I'm sorry, my earpiece has just fallen off.
Okay, can you see, if you can still hear me, let me ask you one last question then, which is about the logistics. You've got me back, okay. If I can ask you one last question about the logistics of this whole thing. We've got 60 days before another election has to be held. The opposition wants the entire election commission to be replaced. This is a logistical nightmare, isn't it?
Yes, I don't think that's going to happen, to be honest. We don't have enough time to start replacing the Electoral Commission. The chairman of the Electoral Commission has already spoken, and he said he's going to stay on the job. He's not resigning. So there might be some changes to the commission, but I don't think they'll be sweeping. I think the more important thing is that it has been affirmed now that they've got to carry out the election in accordance to the laws that are there. That it is not simply enough to say that the vote at the polling station, what is declared at the end is the same as what was at the polling station, that the process itself is important, and it is the process that safeguards the integrity of the entire exercise. So it will be good for Kenyans now to see what an election run according to the laws that we have set up would actually look like, and it will actually set a precedent, I think, for elections to come.
Patrick Gathara in Nairobi, thank you.